Everybody, this is Real Talk with Apostle DC Elliott, and I am here to talk about something that I think just needs to be discussed, and this is for men and women. The topic that I want to talk about is fighting for adequacy as a man. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because as life goes on, you tend to reflect on things that have happened to you and challenges in your life. And when you have a desire to improve, you look at yourself to see what it is that you can do to be better. And sometimes we don't realize as men we are fighting a battle of adequacy because the world that we live in right now does not do much to exemplify what men are doing on a regular basis. Um, most of us, and I guess I can speak for myself, I grew up in this situation where my dad wasn't in the home. Uh, he was in the home early on. He wasn't a great example. But for the most impressionable times of my life, from about the age of 11 on, I was living in a household dealing with the ramifications of my dad's behavior and watching how it affected my mom. And then I had aunties and a grandmother who had been spurred in relationships. And so I had a lot of conversations, a lot of talks that was given to me about the things that men did not do and did not do well. And so part of my desire as I grew and mature was I did not want to be like those examples of men that was told to me as I was growing up. I didn't have any male role models. I played sports, but I wasn't one of those kids that was pulled under the wing by the coach. And no coaches picked me up or took me under their wing to help me develop. Everything that I did was pretty much on my own, and I had uh, a myriad of different things that I was interested in, a myriad of different things that I was doing, but I had no guidance and no direction for the most part. I went to college, um, first generation kid to go to college in my family, and flunked out because I was in a situation where I had never really been on my own. It was a lot of responsibility. I went to a school that did not support making sure that student athletes had the support, the tutoring, and other things that they needed. I was just a number. And so I flunked out of school and then got myself together and went back to school. And then my mom and my grandmother got sick, and I dropped out again without proper guidance on how to withdraw from classes and things like that. And being able to go back and retake classes for credit so that my grades can come up or taking it incomplete. None of that stuff happened. So my GPA was terrible. Okay. And so because of that, it took me a long time to be willing to go back to school. So I was in a dogfight at this point and trying to live up to the models of success that was generally thrown out there. You go to school, you get a good job, you take care of yourself, you're independent, all of those things. I was striving to do it all and failing at most with no guidance. And then, so what that did for me is it made me always want to prove myself. It put me in a position where I was fighting for recognition of just being a human being and a man. I did not want to be categorized as a not being a good man because I had those examples in my family. That's what I was fighting against. And what ended up happening is I ended up being exactly doing exactly the thing that I did not want to do. Uh got married at 26, had my first child at 26. Beautiful daughter. 4 years later, I had a son, and right after my son was born, me and my first wife separated, and ended up getting a divorce. And I never wanted my kids to grow up in a home without both parents, but I didn't really understand what I did wrong. I was trying to do everything right that I knew to do. Once again, no mentorship, no positive male role models in my family or my household. So that blow made me feel like I failed. I failed as a husband. I was failing as a man. And so gave my life to Christ, started participating in church, was around men that talked to me some, but nobody took me under their wing, because I was a good guy, had good habits, was faithful in church and things like that. Nobody ever looked at me as I had a need to be mentored. And so, once again, fighting for adequacy, trying to do everything that the Bible said that we were supposed to do that's right, and everything that I didn't do that was right, I was condemning myself along the way. Once again, fighting for adequacy. And then I realized that my love language was encouragement. I thrived when people encouraged me and recognized things that I did well, which made me uh, strive even harder for that acceptance. And I felt broken whenever I didn't get it. And so, estranged from most of my family, I found more solace in friends who appreciated the things that I did than in family who really didn't pay attention or acknowledge who I was. And so, I give you that backdrop to say that I realized that based on what I went through, I had a desire to fight for adequacy. I always wanted to prove myself. I always wanted to be better than any example that I had heard of, but I didn't understand why I was failing. And so when you don't know what you're doing wrong or you don't know how to fix what you're doing wrong, you don't acknowledge that you're born in the sin suit and you're going to have battles and things that you're going to run into that's going to cause you to make mistakes along the way because none of us are perfect. And when people highlight those things, it makes you fall and feel like you're continuing to fail. I wonder if I'm the only one that feels that way. We go on and on and on, and we do the best that we can do, and then we start to learn about counseling, and we start to learn about the principles. For me, most of it was trial and error. And until I reached a point of comfort in being in a relationship with God, that's how I got my guidance and direction on how to be a better man. But for better than 20 years of my life, I was operating from a model that was failing. And so I find myself at this day and age rebuilding relationships with my children, my son and my daughter, because of the failures and the emotions that I was stuck in at the time based on hurt and a lack of guidance. And then I find myself building relationships with my mother, who I harbored a lot of pain from things that happened in the past. I find myself not really talking much to my father, even though we're not at odds. But so many things have happened over the years. I have no compulsion to reach out to him and call him on a regular basis. But if something happens, I feel compelled to go and check on him. But other than that, there's a detachment that I'm dealing with because I didn't get what I needed when I was growing up. I say all of this to say that a lot of times when we have things that are going on in our life, it puts us in a position where we're fighting for adequacy. We're fighting to be looked at as a whole person, not a perfect person, a whole person. We want to be acknowledged for the things that we do well, which becomes the motivation for us to be better. Um, some people don't need anybody from the outside to boost them up or make them feel well about themselves, but some people do. And to be at the point that I'm at now and to realize that in my life, there's a fight for adequacy still. I work a job as a professional, the best job that I've ever had, perfect for my calling, perfect for my gifts, my talents, and abilities. But every day I go in with a mindset that I am going to be the best at what I do, and I don't compromise on that. In reference to relationships that I have with friends, I want to be reliable. I want to be someone that they can depend on. And so I don't compromise on those things. This all comes out of a desire and a fight for adequacy. If you don't know what your battle is, you can't do anything about it. I'm wondering if any men feel like I do, or if any women can relate to what I'm saying. If so, comment on this video. Give me some feedback because I would like to know if anybody else has stories or issues that they're dealing with in this fight for adequacy, or if anybody can relate to what I'm talking about. Once again, this is Apostle DC Elliott. This is Real Talk. Talk to you soon. God bless.